p.m. And I want to just note that we have two board members joining us online tonight, Mark Doyle and Ilda Ray. So they're not here at the table with us, but everybody is here for the meeting. And we'll start with Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you. Ilda's putting justice before liberty. It's okay. No, I mean, Katina. Yeah, she called me Leslie all day yesterday, so we're even now. Approval of the minutes for October 22nd, 2022. I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
Thank you, Brendan. Second by Paula. Any discussion of those minutes? All those in favor, please indicate by raising your hand. Is there any abstention? No? Okay, thank you very much. Minutes approved. We're on to public comment. Is anybody signed up online or in person? Okay, thank you. Nobody. Board Chair's report. I just want to report that that this is our only regular board meeting for the month of November. People are used to us having 2 meetings a month. So if they're members of the public watching, or even for board members, we're not meeting the week of Thanksgiving. And so our next meeting won't be until December. So, and that date is December 14th. So just want to make sure board members are planning accordingly, if knowing that we're not going to be able to take action on things before December, unless we need to have a special meeting for some reason. Okay, thanks. So we're going to turn it over to Superintendent Youngberg.
Thank you very much. Okay, so as you know from your board packet, there's a series of things in the superintendent's report this week. First and foremost is the updates that we provided on school safety and security. As you know, we have from the beginning of the year been working, actually prior to the start of the school year, working on improving overall safety and security in each of our school buildings. Unfortunately, this year we've had 3 opportunities to work directly with the Willimantic Police Department through those swatting incidents, and they have been, horribly disruptive, but at the same time they've given us the opportunity to sort of evaluate how good we are at trying to keep members safe in the building. And the board's aware of the recent acts of physical aggression at Windham High School and our response to that as well. So I've given board members, and available for the public as well, a list of all the things, all the latest updates in terms of school safety and security. I can also tell you that the Regional Superintendents Group will be soon having a presentation from a local vendor that specializes in this, and we've already contracted out. I signed the contract to have the updated safety and security audits for each of the buildings, as was directed at the board retreat. We went out and got, I didn't, Dawn did, our director of facilities. We went out and got some quotes to have those redone, and we've signed the contract, so they'll be starting. But all of the regional superintendents, obviously safety and security is it's your number 1 priority, and every one of them is feeling pressure to make sure that we have the most up-to-date responses to these emergency situations. So we're dealing with it within the district and then extending outside. So I don't know if there's any questions that any board members have about safety and security.
I just want to reiterate for the public, as Dr. Youngberg alluded to, we did set aside time at our board retreat to really delve into this in much more detail. So the board is very cognizant of what people in the community may be concerned about, and encourage anybody to reach out to us if they'd like to know more detail about what things are already in place, and a lot is in place. Just want to make sure that people understand that it is something that we aren't just reacting to. Before the school year even started, we had started talking about this issue.
That is correct. Thank you. Okay, next in the board packet is the biweekly check-in on attendance and discipline data. I don't know if you have any specific questions.
I don't see any.
Okay, thank you. Then you have your biweekly check-in on Windham Middle School's, the school improvement process and any updates from that school. So you'll notice check-in on their summer reading recognition, some information about their field trips, and the collaboration that's happening with Mystic Seaport through their science department, and some other updates related to Windham Middle School as well, including the fact that they finished their DESA administration with 100% participation, meaning every student was checked in on in terms of their social emotional well-being.
Could you please explain for public what you mean by DESA?
DESA is the Devereaux Student Strengths Assessment. It is a benchmarking system we use to determine students that might be in need of additional social emotional supports. So it basically, it's about a 1-minute assessment. A teacher has a conversation with the student, and the answers to the conversation determine where the student falls on a continuum, and you can determine who might need additional supports. And then obviously the school's job is to design their interventions to support the students that need that additional work.
Does anybody have any questions? Yes, Hilda? I'm so sorry.
You really did it.
I'm
Now
gonna
she thinks
start
it's
it- started all over again. Katina.
You're going to switch the nameplates?
No, no, please don't do that. Then I'll just be more confused. Thank you. Yeah, okay. You can retrain me.
No, I'm just joking. Anyways, my question is, if we, would it be appropriate for us to see like an overall picture of what that assessment says in terms of what are the areas of need?
So you're asking for the specific data?
I'm asking for not necessarily numbers.
You
but-
want to see the actual test?
Yeah, well, no, I would like to know what the results were,
Okay.
but,
Sure.
Don't have to
Obviously, without violating anyone's
of
privacy, but
course,
we can give
of
you
course.
the
Overall
aggregate data.
picture so that then we can see what resources the school needs as a board to fulfill those needs.
Sure.
So
Also,
Katina, are you asking for more than data? You're asking for the high level, like takeaways
How
from
would-
the assessment,
would-
the
I would-
areas that we should
I would
endeavor to
defer to
focus
the
on?
superintendent and her team to decide on that, but I would like to know in general what the needs are, the areas that we can help out with, and also, how is there a correlation between that and educational needs? I just thought about that too. Okay, thank you.
Sure. I think a lot of the questions that you're asking are going to be answered through our work with Project Aware, so we'll be able to get you that information for sure.
Mary?
Yeah, two things. One was the Mystic Seaport field trips. Are they for all the different grades, or is it just for a specific grade? I see there's a number of trips. And also regarding the master schedule, I just want to say that I am a little concerned that they have the schedule's being finalized in January, and school has been in session since late August.
Okay, so I can answer both questions. The Mystic Seaport field trips are for grades 7 and 8, and if you have specific questions about that work, Dr. Ware can actually help answer, because in addition to the field trips, they actually send in educators to sort of preset the students before they go to the seaport. So it's an exciting adventure and science class in grade 7 and 8 at the middle school. And again, if there's specifics, Dr. Ware can respond to that. In terms of the master schedule was finalized in the summer, and as with any master schedule in a school as large as the middle school, when you run the schedule, there are kinks in it. There are things that need to be addressed. So given the changes that happened over the summer in terms of the leadership team, we made the decision not to make any major changes to start the school year off. They knew they were going to be making changes. At first, they thought it would be at the end of the first quarter, but then Mr. De La Barrera really wanted to get additional feedback from his staff, so he spent additional time making sure all different departments had a chance to look at the changes, and they believe they can make those changes in January, and it will be much smoother of a transition by waiting. So it was a leadership decision that was supported by teacher feedback as well as my own. I gave them the okay to wait. It made sense given all the changes.
Thank you. Do you want to hear more about the field trips, or since Dr. Ware is here? Okay.
Okay, next up in my report is just that I gave the board an example of one of our school improvement plans. I used Sweeney Elementary School, but they all look very similar. All of the school improvement plans are aligned to the strategic plan for the district, and they are all focused around our goals of moving each school forward on our accountability index, which you know we discussed at the board retreat. In the plan that I gave you, which, by the way, we learned not all the pages are paginated, so well, they are in your retreat, but not on my plans. You'll find that there's a graph that actually shows the accountability index. Mr. Weathers was nice enough to do some projections for each of the schools and for the district in general. This is the report card that the state uses to determine whether or not we're making progress. So we've set up all of our plans to be evaluated based on the state's report card. So trying to make it seamless, so we'll be able to say to the board, yes, we met, X, Y, and Z goals as the state has established them for us. So I imagine that there may be additional questions from the board about the accountability index because it is not a simple thing to understand. We live it, and it's still very complicated. So if the board wants a workshop in the future on all the different categories, we're happy to provide that, just letting you know that all of our goals are set up around the accountability index.
Does anybody have any questions or comments about that now? Or, yes, go ahead, Mary.
Yeah, I just want to, I just noticed that some of the staff positions are TBD still. And also, I know that the dean is just half-time there usually, so I would like it indicated when staff are not full-time, and also, these vacant positions.
So the vacant positions you're talking about, that would be the math interventionist position, which was the position held by the dean. It has not yet been filled. A school psychologist, that's a struggle that districts all over the state are having, trying to fill those positions. I see the HR director nodding her head because it is a struggle. And the social work assistant, I'm not exactly sure about why that's not filled at Sweeney School, but those are the TBD that I can see.
So, do you have a follow-up question on that, Mary? Okay. Yes.
Could you please repeat about your idea of a possible workshop on
Sure.
the criteria?
Katina, she's referring to the chart.
Yeah, so the school accountability index is again, like our district's report card. Or it's the
Yes.
district accountability, and each school has their own report card. So what I was suggesting is it might make sense for us to visit the accountability index as a board so that you understand exactly how the state is evaluating us and how I'm evaluating how well my principals are doing in their schools.
I think that would be a great idea, and that's what I was ending up with, to have a workshop on that, a little work, or so we all understand.
And I know a wonderful presenter.
I'm looking at
Mr.
him.
Weathers, exactly.
Yeah, that would be great. Thank you for asking for that, Katina.
Okay, moving right along. The next is just the update that the board received on our November 1st Professional Development Day. Again, I want to thank Mr. Weathers and the entire Professional Development Committee. A lot of my directors are involved in that committee, as well as other staff members across the district. It has worked really well this year in moving professional development out and getting positive feedback from our staff about what we're offering. So, then there's an update provided for the walkthroughs that took place on November 2nd with Dr. Betty Oska from the Partners for Education. Not seeing any questions. Next is the update on parent and community engagement. As a matter of fact, there'll be a video coming out soon that we'll just talk to the community about our desire to make sure that they're actively engaged in the work of, in supporting their students' journey throughout their educational experience. And there's the parent survey that's coming out on Monday for them to fill out. So I don't know if there's any questions on parent and community engagement.
Will the video be in English and Spanish?
So the video is in English. It's actually myself and Dr. Ware introducing the topic, and then our videographer, Mr. Camacho, is doing Spanish subtitles for the entire video, so they'll be able to see exactly what it is we're saying.
Mary?
What's the CPRL initiative?
That's the work we've been doing with the Center for Public Research, and I always forget the L. Anyone know? No. Research and Leadership. So the Center for Public Research and Leadership is an organization that we partner with and have been working with along the lines of trying to improve our parental engagement. It's something we used last year, and we're continuing it this year.
I just wanted to say we try to expand the abbreviations when they're in the packets.
Yeah, acronyms are really hard for people who aren't in the field.
I'll make sure it's corrected.
And is that a national or state-based organization? Do we know?
Yeah. So it's a state-based, right? Yeah. Yeah.
They're from Columbia University, for people who may not have picked up what Neil said. Thanks.
And actually, that information will be connected when we place the video on our website. All that information will be housed in one location. So I apologize for the acronym. There'll be more to come on it. And then we have a Camino Alto update from the update from our Director of Pupil Services, who's here if there's any additional questions about the changes we're making in that program.
Does anybody have any questions on that?
Okay.
Mary?
So, this is not a very detailed update. So the idea is that there were not many students at the high school that still were in Camino Alto. Initially, it was in the middle school and Natchog and the high school. So I guess I would like to know in terms of an update, is it going to remain in any school? And a student was involved in the high school, is being removed from this program and put somewhere else. So I would just like to know about that.
So we won't speak directly about any student, but we will tell you that we're under contract with Camino Alto through June of 2023. So if you want to just tell them where the programs are, a general overview.
Sure. So we are contracted to have 3 classrooms, and currently we'll have 2 classrooms effective November 21st at Natchog and 1 classroom at the middle school.
So the classroom at the high school will no longer be in place.
Correct. When we looked at the number of students that were still in Camino Alto, there just were not enough students to make it fiscally sound to maintain the program there.
And so Natchog will only have elementary age students, is that the case? And is it taking up space that would have been used for other things at Natchog? Because I know at one point they couldn't use their media center because it had a special program in it, and it kind of affects the entire school, and it puts kind of it singles out Natchog in some
So
ways.
I just want to make sure that the board hears this. So the Natchog leadership team couldn't be happier about this decision. They feel like this decision allows their students in the building to be supported at a higher level than they're able to provide, and it allows them to potentially address other issues in their building and not spend as much time in their specialized programs. So they are very much on board with this decision. But go ahead, Suzanne.
Correct. So the Camino Alto staffing will replace our Windham Public Schools Stride team. So they're actually just taking over an existing behavioral classroom and staffing it for us. So we're really not making any changes to any child's program, just the teacher and the teaching assistants within that classroom. So it won't, and when you referenced before that we had a specialized program in the library, that was for a small period of time when we had to do the build out for the Camino Alto program. I don't want anyone in the public to think that we, took away a library from someone in order to house a classroom. So both classrooms are down on the first floor. It's an existing classroom, and any future build outs, the furniture is all at the cost of the Camino Alto staff and program, sorry.
In answer to the question about the ages of the students, they're all students who would be in that school at that age anyway.
There's existing students already in the program, so they're just working with those existing students that are currently in our Stride program.
Katina?
And the Stride program staff will be then free to attend to other children's needs within the building, correct?
Correct. So all staff are still currently employed with Windham Public Schools and are supporting our other students across the district.
Mark and Ilda, I want to make sure that you just pipe in if you have questions, because I don't always see you. Mark, you have your hand up? You're okay. You're okay? Okay. Cool. Thanks.
Okay, and thank you, Suzanne. Last but not least, I don't know if there's someone from Grow Windham on the call. Did they join virtually? Okay, so we did provide you with the survey that they're asking for board approval on. We're not voting tonight. We're not voting until next month on it, but they had told us that they would be available to answer questions because I imagine the board might have questions. So I don't know how that will impact the vote next month, but I don't see anyone on the call. Okay.
Would the board like to hear from somebody from Grow Windham at our next meeting when we might take action, when we're set to take action on this? Because we could certainly have them available to answer any questions that evening. Or do you feel okay about what you've read in the description and the letter that they sent?
I'm okay with what I have read, and I'm familiar with the wonderful job that they do.
Anybody else? Mary?
Yeah, I think they do wonderful things too. I just, I don't know, do parents need to make sure it's all right for their children to give out their ages and where they live and things? I mean, I'm just maybe sometimes overly cautious about student privacy.
So is there an answer to that as far as, or do we need to get an answer to that?
So I will follow up and try to dig a little deeper into that. Parents have the option to opt out of the survey entirely, so as do the students. So I imagine if anyone's uncomfortable, they don't have to answer the survey altogether. It's a completely optional survey.
And
Katina or
yes,
Brendan? Brendan? And then Katina.
Mary, I was just going to note, I'm looking at the survey, and those questions, especially the where you live, are not marked as required.
Katina?
Yes, and when I read that question, I interpreted like the general area where you live, like, let's say, Village Heights, not necessarily an address, so I felt comfortable with that.
And I can ask them if that was their intent or if there's some way to change it so it, yeah, exactly.
Okay, so I just want to make sure we're thinking we have enough information. We'll get a little more information on that particular question, but we do not need to ask somebody from Grow Windham to attend and present at our next meeting. Okay. And, you know, if they want to attend online and just be there when we have the discussion, they could do that. But oh, she's online? Okay, does anybody have any questions for Sally? Mary, do you want to ask that question since you posed it?
Yeah, I just had the question about the students providing their age and where they live, and if, you know, how do we respect their privacy?
Go ahead, Sally, if you have an answer to that question.
Just joined. That's perfect timing. Sorry about that. I'm out of town and trying to get decent Wi-Fi.
Okay.
Is how to respect the student privacy?
Right, because there's a question about where they live and their age.
Right.
Is there anything else you want to say? This is Mary Gallucci. I don't know whether you can see us. It looks like you might not be on camera, but we just wanted to answer that question. We feel pretty confident about taking action on this at our next meeting. But Mary, does the answer about disassociating the name from the rest of the data make sense?
Yeah, I mean, I as I said, I don't want to be overly kind of paranoid, but, you know, it's just kind of the world we're in. So maybe it could, if the where do you live, I suppose, doesn't necessarily mean their address, but maybe their school. So, I mean, perhaps if we had a little more information about where the information about students, like their name, age, and address, you know, if that just stays in your organization, I guess that would be sufficient unless parents had any concerns. I wouldn't want anyone to be excluded just because they might feel uncomfortable for putting an address, for example.
So what I'm hearing, this is Lynn. I think what we really want to preserve is their age and their school. That's that's helpful information for any follow-up as a result of the survey, to tell if there are certain age groups that are having issues or certain schools that may need more or less attention or whatever. So I think you should endeavor to try to disaggregate the name and any address if that information is given to you. So I think
Okay. No, and I appreciate that concern. I mean, that's
I'm seeing a lot of nodding heads. I think that makes sense. So we'll put this on the agenda at our December meeting and take action. And I appreciate you coming this evening. And we're going to move on.
thank you so much.
You're welcome. We jumped ahead to discussion items, so we need to go back to committee reports. It's a natural segue into it, but let's go back to committee reports. And first report is policy.
Hi. First of all, I want to thank Dr. Youngberg and Holly, mostly Holly, according to her, yeah, so that now our website is crystal clear. It has 3 beautiful columns, one with CABE's policies, one with those who have been repealed. By now is about 60, I counted today. And then the third one is those that have been approved this year. So thank you very much for doing that. Number 2, we met October 27th, and as you can see on your packet, you have quite a few policies that are due to new legislation that we need to consider and vote on tonight. 3, we have a bullying policy, which is very, very close to the one that we have had, and if anybody has any questions, Suzanne is here to help us. So she edited it, and we are proposing to move to the board for approval the one that has been edited, and it was in blue on your packets. So let's see. Anything else that you can remember, Brendan? You were there. We reviewed the policies as I'm reading on non-discrimination and racial harassment and the forms that we had. But most important, we're moving along and becoming, having those that are mandated by law and updating our policy. Thank you.
Any questions for Katina? Okay, thank you. Now we're going to hear from curriculum. Mary.
Yes, we met earlier in the month and discussed ELA. Previous meeting was the math curriculum.
You might want to say ELA, what that
English
stands
language
for.
arts, yes. That's how it was on the agenda. But anyway, we did also talk about the professional development that occurred on the day the teachers were present, but not the students. Amy Finsmith was there to tell us about these guides for the very rich ARC, American Reading Company, resources that students are used from K through 8. And these guides sound incredibly in-depth and wonderful because I love indexes myself. So this is the kind of thing where you can find information fairly easily from all this bulk of material. So it sounds very useful, and I think it will help the teachers and the students.
Anybody have any questions for Mary or any additions who were on at that meeting?
I just wanted to say that Amy and staff did a fabulous job creating those guides. Were very not only interesting, but easy to use for the teachers. Thank you.
She's on the call, so hopefully she heard that feedback. We appreciate all the work that's been done on the implementation guides.
Thanks, Amy. Okay, now we're on to school planning and design. It's over to you, Brendan.
Thank you. We met last week. We started off with the good old Windham Center oil tank. The good news is the tank was removed last week on November 1st ahead of the deep mandated deadline of November 4th. So we are in compliance with our plan with the Department of Environmental Protection. There was a small hole found in the tank about the diameter of a pencil. Some soil samples were taken. We're awaiting results on those, and in the meantime, the site's been secured until we get those results. Once we do get those, the contractor has the new tank in their possession and is pretty much ready to get moving on that once we get the all clear. Outside of that, we discussed some plumbing issues that are plaguing the Sweeney faculty restrooms, and some fire code violations that were remediated at our core building. At our next meeting, we'll be looking at the 5-year capital improvement plan and items that we'll be looking to include in next year's capital improvement budget.
Does anybody have any questions for Brendan or any additions if you were at the meeting? Do we have a timeline on when we're going to hear about the soil tests?
Do you have any updates, Dawn?
I mean the soil tests at Windham Center School, in case people
Right.
listening are wondering.
Right, so I didn't, I didn't get the test results back from Eagle Environmental. However, I'm going to safely assume that things are okay because Crop Environmental they're planning on putting the new tank in Friday, as long as it's raining. So if we don't get the rain early in the morning, they're planning on putting a new tank in the ground this Friday. So they wouldn't do that if the soils were bad.
So you haven't seen the results, but you believe Crop Environmental has received the results. Is that what you're saying?
Correct.
Okay.
Can we double check?
I know, I feel like
Yeah,
we're
I
going to
checked
need to
with.
double check that.
I checked through Eagle Environmental. They're the ones that did the testing. They sent it off to Phoenix, and last they told me that they were still waiting for. They got preliminary, but they're just waiting for the large report from Phoenix.
Well, all I'm suggesting is that we make sure that Crop actually has those test results before they put the tank in the ground.
Yes, agreed.
If that, just gonna have to push a little on that, I guess. Thanks. I'd hate to have them tell us we have to dig it up again or something. Anything else? Okay. So now we're on to action items, and we have a whole bunch of action that we need to take on calendars. For members of the public, we need to, by date certain in December of each year, set the calendar for the following year so that can be posted and we can abide by the schedule. So we've been talking about this for a little while now. Everything was in your packets. I'll entertain a motion to adopt the 2023 board meeting dates.
So moved.
Well, we'll take a second from you, Ilda. Katina beat you to it. Yeah. So Is there any discussion? Has everybody taken a look at those meeting dates? Okay, all those in favor of adopting the 2023 board meeting dates, please indicate by raising your hand. It's unanimous, thank you. Now we have, I'd entertain a motion on the 2023 committee meeting dates.
So moved.
Paula,
Second.
seconded by Brendan. Any discussion on those? Okay, all those in favor of the 2023 committee meeting dates indicate by raising your hands. Okay, it's unanimous. And the budget preparation calendar, which, hard to believe, but we're going to be entering into budget season before we know it. I see some shaking heads here.
Most wonderful time of the year.
I'll entertain a motion to adopt that budget preparation schedule.
I heard a so moved.
Mark, moved, okay.
Second.
Seconded by Brendan. Any discussion? Okay, all those in favor, please indicate by raising your hand. Okay, it's unanimous. And then so before we move on to the district calendar, I asked board members to populate your calendars now. Like, don't start planning ahead so that you don't say, next July that you didn't know we had a meeting or something like that. So the district calendar, this has a lot of input to get to the district calendar. And I'll entertain a motion to approve that. The 2023-24 school district calendar. Ilda? Can I get a second? Second by Mark. Ooh, that online team is on top of it. Any discussion on the district calendar? Okay, all those in favor, please indicate by raising your hand. It's unanimous. Thank you. Wow, that's great to get that done a month ahead of time.
And thank you to Mr. Weathers and the whole calendar committee for their feedback.
Okay, now we have a bunch of policy-related actions. And Katina explained them already. They've been in our packets. We've had a chance to review them. So I'll entertain a motion on possible action to repeal policy 5145.42, Form 1 and Form 2.
Madam Chair,
Yes?
I would make a motion that we just take items B through H as one.
How does somebody want to second that motion?
I'll second that.
Motion made by Mark and seconded by Brendan to take them all as one. Don't think there's anything too controversial in this, so are there any, I'll take a vote on that. All those in favor of the motion on the floor? Are you okay, Mary?
I'll abstain.
Mary's abstaining. Ilda, what did you vote? I didn't see your hand. You voted yes? Okay. Motion carries. Okay. All those, I'll entertain a motion to adopt B through H.
So moved.
Motion made by Katina, Chair of the Policy Committee.
Second.
Seconded by Alicia, birthday woman. And any further discussion on any of these?
Can I,
Yes?
B is to be repealed. Does that matter
Yeah.
if we're repealing that one and accepting the others? Does that make a difference?
Well, we're just
in the
taking a
vote?
motion, we're taking action on
On all of them.
all of them as they're proposed.
Proposed, okay.
Proposed.
Yeah. That's a good question, though. Thank you. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please indicate by raising their hand. It's unanimous, so they all passed.
Thank you.
And so now, thank you, Policy Committee. We're on to public comment. Is there anybody? I'd like to take a point of personal privilege and say happy birthday to Alicia Rivera, who's gracing us with her presence on her birthday. And here's to you. I understand you share a birthday with your amazing grandson. Yes, isn't that nice? What a great birthday gift. So I hope everybody will join me in saying happy birthday to Alicia and also thanking her for her service on the board. Any other public comment? Okay, then I'll entertain a motion to adjourn at 7:46 p.m.
I move, we move.
Meeting adjourned.